After enrolling in Kassel, Qianli, who was in the world of the dragon race, was forced to embark on one thrilling dragon-slaying journey after another. She had intended to load up scrap wood and fish in the water, but there were always people trying to challenge her bottom line. Qianli gritted her teeth. Sister, stop pretending, I covered these children. Kiss, have you ever seen the technique of destroying the sky and earth? It's very effective for catching mosquitoes. I highly recommend it, Qianli smiled. Chu Ziheng. Caesar. Lu Mingfei said, Junior sister, is this a bit of a waste of talent? Qianli still laughed mysteriously. Except for me in heaven and earth, they are all mosquitoes and flies. The entire manuscript will not be pitted. CP, aloe vera, kino, fun e, genji shinya chusakura, genji female sakurai xiaomu, all BG pairs, highlighted. Split chu xia. Keywords of the novel. Dragon slaying, from Kassel enrollment to mastery without pop-ups, dragon slaying, from Kassel enrollment to mastery. Download the complete text, Dragon Slaying, from Kassel enrollment to mastery of the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Invitation to Enrollment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Invitation to Enrollment. The sunset completely disappeared on the horizon, and a gentle breeze blew over the hair tips and white gauze skirt hem of the girl sitting on the rooftop, further highlighting her extremely thin figure. She should be a girl around 10 years old, with a pale face hidden in the shadow of the tall camphor tree. With the sound of the current, the golden-winged butterfly that had originally stopped at her fingertips became stiff and scorched black. The girl tilted her head, seeming puzzled. Is this the child without a number you're talking about? The man in the black and red shirt pointed to the girl. Yes, she's too quiet. She just sits on the rooftop every day and doesn't go anywhere, said the man in a dark blue suit. What's wrong with being quiet? The man in the red and black long shirt looked around the crying children downstairs, frowning and speaking impatiently. Didn't Zero get lost? She'll be Zero from now on. It's worth bothering me to come over. The girl finally realized that the center of their conversation was herself. She tilted her head slightly and glanced at them, then withdrew her gaze and continued to gaze into the distance. Just a faint glance, it lifted the hearts of the two men. That gaze was too special, like looking at a dead object. No one likes to be looked at like this, especially when the other person is so weak. Damn it, said the man in the long shirt, shouldn't she have been locked up? His tone was not good, as if he had been provoked by the just glance. Why are you holding your breath with her? She's just a child, the man in the suit smiled helplessly. Damn child, that person's bloodline is all monsters. There's a group of monsters living here. The man yelled angrily. However, the next second he knelt down without any warning. He was stunned and struggled to stand up, only to find that his legs were like being pressed down by 1,000 pounds of steel, unable to move at all. I don't like it. A light and floating sentence fell in the wind, like the white hem of her skirt that was blown up. She has a voice. Why didn't you tell me? The man in the long shirt was torn apart in his eyes. The man in the suit seemed to have watched a good play and laughed even more brightly. He shrugged and said, You didn't ask. The girl stood up and approached the man kneeling on the ground step by step. Only then did he finally see her true face. The whole person was almost transparent white, with no expression on his exquisitely carved jade face. Just like a queen who ascended to the throne at a young age, full of majesty. She walked up to the man and tiptoed lightly. She is too young, even when a man kneels, she is still half a head taller than her. He lost his voice in an instant, allowing the girl to use her forehead to touch his own. This is a very intimate gesture, and from a distance, the two of them look like a father and daughter with a warm atmosphere. Unfortunately, the person playing the role of father couldn't help but tremble due to the girl's proximity. The girl closed her eyes and sang softly, Your sins are forgivable, but God is not prepared to forgive you. After speaking, without giving the man a chance to refute, she withdrew and turned to one side to hold the hand of another person, saying, "Will Uncle Sakurai leave me? Like the butterfly just now." Sakurai's corner of the eye twitched. If I'm not mistaken, the butterfly turned into dust only when the little girl pushed it onto the barbed wire. "You'll leave," he sighed. "It's just that you're leaving Uncle. You'll go far and become a better version of yourself. Uncle will be waiting for you here. Will you wait?" "I will." The figures of the two gradually drifted away until they disappeared on the rooftop. The man kneeling on the ground was like a dehydrated fish, lying on the ground panting heavily after being released from confinement. "It's number 0, number 0. It's back." Verification passed. Qianli, born on May 21, XXXX, female, IDAD 0707, Class B, included in the list of Kassel College. Database access is enabled, account is opened, and course selection table is generated. "I am Norma, the secretary of Kassel College, and I am glad to serve you. Your flight ticket, passport, and visa will be delivered within 3 days. Welcome, Qianli. B. Level." Qianli devoured a whale and said, "Are you sure you're not mistaken? Norma would never make a mistake in this matter, let alone your bloodline level is personally determined by principal anger." "Sorry, I was just too surprised. I thought it would be like CDEF, but it's not convincing." Qianli touched his nose and said, "If you have these classes." At present, there is indeed an F.level student in the college, and if he cannot graduate this year, his rating will be downgraded to G. "Oh, which divine person!" Qianli exclaimed to his experts. "Fingal von Flins. I think it might be nice to meet him, he's a person who makes people happy." Qianli raised her eyebrows and said, "Norma, it seems like you really like this one. So, looking forward to meeting you officially." Norma automatically ignored the topic and cut off communication. Qianli pouted and put down her phone, holding the admission letter from Kassel College between her middle and index fingers in her right hand, slowly lifting it up. That is a uniquely shaped tree, half full of branches and leaves, and half already withered. She closed one eye and carefully observed the gilded patterns on the cover under the incandescent light. The semi-decaying world tree magnified in front of her, becoming 3-dimensional. As the wind blew, she heard the rustling of leaves. The black giant dragon circled in the air, spewing flames in its mouth, and landed steadily on the trunk of the tree, with bone wings the size of mountains hanging down to the ground. Qianli had never seen such a beautiful creature before, and each scale was given a different meaning by time. Her half-narrowed golden pupils turned and looked towards her, with a towering momentum surging out. The sound of orderly footsteps gradually came from afar, and bundles of torches gathered to form a burning sea of flames. They danced and sang ancient songs in their mouths. The sacrificial envoy climbed up along the hanging bone wings of the dragon and arrived at its heart. Without hesitation, he plunged his sharp sword into it. The giant dragon roared and fanned its bony wings, attempting to escape but being restrained by chains. Blood converges into a river, staining the entire mountain range red. As the high temperature rises into the sky, it turns into bright red clouds, staining half of the sky. Blood rain dripped down. The eyes were crimson, and it was hard to distinguish whether it was a burning flame or blood. The strong smell of rust penetrated into the nose, and the flames mixed with blood, like flowing magma. "Why do you have to leave? You'll die." Someone sighed lightly in their ear. "I'm Joie." "Who's talking?" Qianli suddenly regained his senses and shook his hand, throwing the admission letter onto the opposite wall, looking around. "Your reaction is much more interesting than my brother's." Unable to determine whether it was a mocking or excited voice, Qianli looked at the source of the sound and heard it. The boy with extremely delicate features sat in front of her bay window, tilting his head and looking at her with a pair of golden pupils. His brown-black hair hung gently around his ears, making him look exceptionally obedient. He swayed his feet, his white stockings appearing and disappearing as he moved. Like a cat. Qianli thought to herself. Who is your brother? You will know. The boy smiled and was not ready to answer the question. He just said, "Good night, madam. Have a good dream. Update on time at 12 noon. Thank you for your support." Kowtow forgot to say that this book prohibits all male homosexuality. CP memes prohibit everything. Everything. Let go of those who don't eat BL and thunder. I will delete them directly when I see the relevant information. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. 3 Good Students. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 3 Good Students. Half a month later. Qianli, pulling a small suitcase and shuttling through the campus filled with European-style buildings, looked at the messy map with route signs in his hand, and was already physically and mentally exhausted before officially enrolling. Just now, her brain twitched and she rejected the enthusiastic senior brother's proposal to lead the way, firmly stating that she wanted to rely on herself. Now, she simply wished to kill herself who had made the decision with confidence. Kassel College is much larger than imagined, with mixed races from all over the world gathered here to fulfill their common dream of dragon slaying. Most of these mixed-race individuals have excellent family backgrounds and have extremely high requirements for quality of life. The college also strives to meet the needs of aristocratic children in this regard. She got lost. Forgive her for only superficially understanding Kassel, this mysterious academy that requires a specific shuttle to even enter school, and for releasing so little information to the outside world. Fortunately, on her way here, she met her senior brother Lu Mingfei, who also came from Shirlan Middle School, and his roommate Fenger. The man who was rumored to have been demoted from A to G due to crazy repetition. The two of them were holding bread in their mouths, while the other was drinking cola. The combination of a spacious white T-shirt, casual floral shorts, and slippers made them look out of place with this gorgeous and crazy college. It's like a programmer who stays up all day until he's bald, being put into a high-end dance party crowded with Jinying. After everyone sees them, they silently draw a clear boundary between the Chu River and the Han River. In the moment of passing by, Qianli heard words like, "fresh junior sister," faintly coming from Finger's mouth, causing her mouth to twitch uncontrollably in giving up the idea of seeking help. Although intuition told her that if she spoke, the two of them should not refuse, and may even be more enthusiastic than the senior just now. However, judging from their appearance, they seemed to have just emerged from the dormitory building when Qianli whispered out the dormitory numbers given by Norma and searched for them one by one. Ah, here we are. At the end of the corridor, the number that had been longing for finally jumped from the campus card in my hand to the nameplate on the door. Putting the suitcase aside, Qianli cleared his throat and knocked on the door. "Just come." A female voice came through a door, and in no time, a cute girl burst into sight. A girl is undoubtedly good-looking, and what's even more rare is that her beauty has no attacking power. Things with overly perfect appearances always give people a strong sense of oppression and distance, but the girl in front of them is not like that. She is like a warm piece of sheepskin jade, or a wild flower brushed by the summer breeze. Even standing quietly in place would make people feel like basking in spring breeze. "Are you my roommate? Come in quickly." The girl leaned aside and gave way to her. "My name is Xiaomi, and I seem to know you." "Yes," Qianli also smiled, "I'm from Shirlan Middle School. We were in the same class, and I've seen you before." When Xiaomi was in school, her course of action coincided with hers, but in most cases she was behind her. A strange expression flashed in Xiaomi's eyes, and she quickly smiled brightly again. "So it's like this, but why don't I remember you, such a beautiful little sister? It's unbelievable." "Because I have a common face," Qianli blinked. Having narrowly passed the 3E exam, Qianli made every effort to join the Lionheart Club, one of the two major clubs in the college. She intended to secretly admire the beauty of the President Chu Zihang, but unfortunately, fate did not meet her expectations. He was injured before the start of school and is currently lying in the medical department. As a highly popular contestant in the college, the number of people visiting him every day is unknown. She can only squeeze in for a short while and take a glance from afar. She found her roommate Xiaomi walking very close to each other. Once, when Qianli was searching for no one, he pushed open the door of the ward and saw Xiaomi sleeping peacefully next to Chu Zihang's bed. Chu Zihang looked at her with extremely gentle eyes. She had never seen his gaze before. In the past, at Shirlan Middle School, the other party was occasionally tricked into socializing with girls from other clubs. Even in places like aquariums and cinemas where campus couples were in love, his gaze at those little girls was indifferent, as if the other party was a man or a woman. Qianli shrugged and pretended not to see anything, quietly leaving the door. She knows a lot about Chu Zihang. She covers everything from family background to personal preferences, sometimes falling into the illusion of being a celebrity's illegitimate food, but quickly correcting her erroneous thoughts. She is just a simple pervert. Life was just living calmly, and if it weren't for occasional words like dragon and spirit of speech spoken by mentors and classmates, Qianli would have thought that she was only attending an ordinary university, not a college that was passionate about dragon slaughter. Until the investigation team sent by the college appeared here, their dear principal was charged with multiple charges. Well, this actually had nothing to do with her. Principal Hilbert Jean Anger is an exceptionally charming old man with over 130 years of age. Like some students in this school, she admires him very much, but only for that. She didn't believe a word that the person appointed would replace the old man, but rumors spread and Chu Zihang was also implicated. It is rumored that in the eyes of those people, Chu Zihang is simply a living Hades, the source of all evil, and an absolute heresy that must be banned. Tisk. Qianli looked at the post posted on the Night Watch forum and pursed his lips. Then typing quickly. Bastard, they questioned senior brother Chu. Senior brother, did the 3 good students who have been there for so many years get it for free? System prompt, your post has been refined and topped by the administrator 1L Fenger. Damn it, is it true that junior brother Chu is a good student? 2L Ricardo M. Road. Yes, senior brother is a good student. Every year I remember my senior brother won the 3 good student honor certificates from national level to community level. 3L Dirk Tutor. It's really surprising. For L Nono it's really hard to imagine. 5L Shemi. Wow, so impressive, truly worthy of being a senior brother. Stick reading. 6L Village Rain. 7L Ricardo M. Road. Not many people know about this. Are you also from Shirlan Middle School? 8L Li Lu Zhu. I am the little fan sister of senior brother Chu, of course I know. 9L Ricardo M. Road. No wonder. 10L Li Lu Zhu. In short, everyone unite and protect the best Chu senior brother in the world. 11L Ricardo M. Road. I suddenly remembered an emoji. Whenever someone says that nothing is perfect, I Chu Zihang. JPG, 12L Fenger. Surprisingly, there is such a picture. However, junior brother Chu looks really like a good student like this. 13L Dirk Tutor. If you don't know what he did. 14L Fenger. Okay, just leave these matters to me. This guy you've never met before, remember to come to the hearing tomorrow and see how I can show my skills, senior brother. 15L Mr. Lee. Good brother, I'll just quietly watch you play. JPG request for recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Mysterious Person Visits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Mysterious Person Visits. Like a thunderous roar in his ear, Student Union President Cesar Gattuso was awakened by a strong shock and pulled out his own dictuto. The wall ash continued to peel off with violent vibrations, and the crystal lamp made a crisp sound as it shook. He stood on the ground, confirmed that it was not an enemy attack, and then withdrew his knife to quickly dial a number. No, how are you doing on your end? Me. I'm fine here, it's just that the dormitory building collapsed. It shouldn't be those crazy guys from the equipment department conducting experiments in the middle of the night, right? No seemed to have just woken up, his tone still a bit hazy. The equipment department of the college is full of bomb enthusiasts, and it is common to blow up most of Kassel in the middle of the night without a word. Caesar breathed a sigh of relief and opened the curtains to look outside. There has been a serious collapse in the principal's backyard, he said. That group of lunatics shouldn't be so bold in conducting experiments there. No frowned. Yes, do you want to go see it? Together. Caesar jumped out of the window with agile movements. Whatever. No shrugged nonchalantly, casually draped a coat, and walked out of the ruins. In the room on the other side, Qianli, a carp, jumped up from the bed and dodged the chandelier that hit her in time. She looked around for a week and didn't see Xiaomi, so she could only jump out of the window and quickly run towards the school medical room. The source of the collapse is far from here, and compared to the dormitory buildings that have turned into ruins, the situation of the school medical room is better. But it's just a little bit. Qianli kicked away the scattered obstacles on the ground and quickly walked towards his memory location. In the darkness, a pair of bright golden pupils spread out like lights. Senior brother Chu. Are you okay? She breathed a sigh of relief and helped up the person who was supporting herself with the village rein. Chu Zihang was slightly stunned and pursed his lips, saying, "Thank you." Even if the other party shows good intentions, even if they are not used to interacting with strangers, they will never be able to shake off their hands on the spot. But isn't she holding it too tightly? Don't be so polite, Qianli led him to a safe place, clapped his hands as if wanting to say something, but quickly stopped. Someone is coming, so I'll go first. You pay attention to your own safety. Chu Zihang looked at the sudden appearance and departure of the figure, feeling somewhat inexplicable. The girl was very good at hiding, and he couldn't see her face from beginning to end. This disaster caused some circuits in the college to be paralyzed, and the power supply to the school medical room was cut off immediately, while the other party intentionally or unintentionally hid in the darkness from the moment they entered. I'm avoiding him. This idea involuntarily emerged from the bottom of my heart and quickly received recognition from the intuitive system. It's very strange. Is everything okay? Suzy, who arrived, spoke with concern. Chu Zihang said on his face, "It's okay. He's just feeling physically exhausted. Even if that person didn't come just now, he'll be able to leave on his own soon." On the way here, I saw No and Caesar heading towards the backyard, Suzy said. I'll go over too later. Can your body handle it? Let me go, she sighed. Don't worry, even if there is really someone underground who has left now, the rest is just the finishing line. I still have confidence in completing the task. Well, good. Suzy is his most capable assistant, and he won't doubt her ability to handle things. Pay attention to safety. Suzy nodded and said, I know. There was a brief silence between the two. This is their normal way of getting along, and they are not considered talkative people. Most of the time, they just work together tacitly, so they don't feel cramped or embarrassed at this moment. Suzy followed Chu Zihang's gaze and looked towards a certain point, but didn't notice anything. She frowned and left. Wow, it's unbearable, sighed the black figure in the principal's backyard, whose face was hidden under a mysterious mask, causing Henri, who had just returned, to have her forehead twitching. The ruins in front of him, like a garbage dump, were exactly the treasures he had flown to various parts of the world over the years to retrieve and collect. However, in the blink of an eye, he was subjected to such inhumane treatment, which was truly inhumane and despicable. Relax and relax, the middle-aged man with a big belly seemed to hug his old friend's hot shoulder. Maybe even worse is still to come. This is Leonardo Flammel, the equally famous vice president of Kassel College, but his reputation is not so biased towards the right side. Anger. Is this like a comforting thing to say? Ah. Ha. Isn't this your thing? The black figure stepped into the center of the ruins without thinking, and suddenly his eyes lit up. He picked up a uniquely shaped small accessory from the ground. Anger painfully threw the unrecognizable collection aside and leaned over to take a glance, saying, "I don't remember." Forgive the elderly for not being able to remember everything clearly. It seems that a few little ghosts have followed over. Is someone following over? Feeling hot and tired. The matter with the Dragon King has not been properly handled yet, and if there are any unforeseen circumstances, he is afraid that he will really be unable to resist and rush towards the Dragon King temple with his sword, dying together with those scoundrels. "It's not my fault to have a head full of grievances and a master of debts," said the dark figure, seeing that his face was not right. He quickly took a step back, trying to distance himself from everything here. Anger. Is this kind of person really suitable for collaboration? How was he blind in the beginning? Oh, you're joking, don't have that expression on your face. The dark figure rubbed his hands and said, "Don't worry, let me leave it all to you. We won't let anyone interfere with our plan. How do you think it's deliberate provocation? Are you sure you can handle it well?" The vice principal didn't really believe in the strength of this sudden ally. He looks too young, even though his face is hidden under a wide hood, his voice and body movements cannot deceive people. It makes sense, this is just a blatant provocation. It's time to give them some color to see. The black image was awakened by him, and he took out a sign with the words, "Face straight," from somewhere to block his face. The vice principal also saw someone who was even more disconnected than himself for the first time and quietly leaned behind his old friend, saying, "To be honest with me, is he your illegitimate child? Do you think he looks like Lu Mingfei?" Anger remained expressionless. "Oh my, so Lu Mingfei is really your illegitimate child?" He was enlightened. Anger glanced at him speechlessly, then turned to the dark figure and said, "It seems that there are also many people who want to kill you." Black Shadow didn't care and just said, "Everyone has come, can you take me to inspect my goods?" Anger corrected his statement, "The deal hasn't been established yet, it's still mine for now." After finishing speaking, he walked to the place where the dragon bones were preserved and lifted the cloth covering them. The vice principal rushed from behind him to the front in a timely manner, with his hands extended flat, rhythmically shaking his palms one in front of the other. Surprise or not, surprise or stimulation. Although these people have completely destroyed your backyard, your most precious treasure is now unharmed. Anger looked at the beautiful yellow sticky note stuck on the keel cross, and for a moment, she was speechless and choked. He walked up and picked off the note. The note reminded them to strengthen the security of the college, and the tone of disgust almost turned into substance. "It looks like a friend," the dark figure leaned in. "Do you know who it is?" Anger raised her eyebrows. "Wow, principal, you look up to me too much, right?" "How could I know?" The dark figure retreated and changed to a sign that read, "Shocked." "I vividly remember how you looked when we first met. Is this guy older than him, pretending to be innocent with him here?" "Ah. Okay," Black Shadow wrote the words, "Obedience," all over his body. "You know they also pay great attention to contract rules. If they agree, no one can speak." "Our transaction started first," Anger reminded. "But you haven't made up your mind yet whether or not to trade with the young master," the Shadow Stall shrugged and said helplessly, "First come, first served. Please hurry up next time, principal. Request recommendation ticket and leave a message." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Unexpected Hearings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Unexpected Hearings. The next morning, Qianli looked at the crowd in front of her and felt a bit moved. She heard that the college was bombed into half ruins last night, and there was no good place to find the dormitory building and cafeteria. She has nowhere to go, and the hearing is about to take place. If she arrives now, she should be able to grab a complete floor tile, right? With this thought in mind, she held a lollipop in her mouth, grabbed her pockets with both hands, and turned her steps towards the direction of the college conference hall. This hearing is considered a big event for the entire faculty and students of Kassel College, as there are constantly people running around, shooting stars with big strides and appearing out of place with the lazy and scattered Qianli. No, Qianli rejected this idea after seeing the figure of Lu Mingfei. His expression was confused yet firm. He should be looking for someone. Qianli stood with great interest not far away, staring at Lu Mingfei, until he saw disappointment slowly climbing up his face before following his footsteps into the conference hall. The rest of the evidence about Chu Ziheng has been concluded, leaving only Andrew, who claimed to replace the principal, panting with anger. The school doctor has stood behind him to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. The scene entered a white-hot stage, and Andrew saw that he couldn't come up with a plan, so he began to point his finger at Lu Mingfei. Compared to Chu Ziheng, who doesn't advance in oil and salt, Lu Mingfei, who is rated as S.level but has a reputation for being a waste of firewood, looks more bullied. However, it is regrettable that Andrew chose the wrong person this time. While the soft persimmons are easy to pinch, no one thought that after the soft persimmons are squeezed, they may be splashed with persimmon juice all over their bodies. Lu Mingfei, relying on his rogue aura in the market, fiercely suppressed him. Even when Andrew proposed a task for the two of them to carry out during the summer vacation, Lu Mingfei was actually a humanoid pendant of Chu Ziheng. While everyone was slacking off and even getting worse, he booked a place to have dinner with his first love. He fiercely counterattacked the other party. He is a genius with an S.level bloodline. In that mission, he can completely command his deputy Chu Ziheng to do anything as a class and leading commissioner, without the need for him to personally do it. This approach would make others feel very reasonable. However, the defense about my first girlfriend is not very convincing. As soon as the sentence, "There are so many girls I can arrange to have dinner alone," came out, Qianli clearly saw some people in the student seats emitting unfriendly laughter. She frowned and fixed her gaze on the beautiful Russian girl with blonde hair in another corner. After the other person raised her hand, she also slowly raised it. Considering that she is not the first and has armed herself well, there is not much sight looking at her here. But that's enough. She saw Lu Mingfei looking over. Qianli tilted his head and gave him a brilliant smile. Andrew has been almost beaten under pressure so far, his head is dizzy, and he completely doesn't understand why these students who behaved incredibly well when he came in are so tough to chew on. Even the recognized useless S.level can have unexpected performance. But that's all for now, he said to himself in his heart. You forced me. He returned to the investigation team's table. Now I will submit a piece of evidence that cannot be erased to the jury. He looked around the room, as if he had regained his state. His crimson eyes were filled with pride, deliberately raising the volume to make everyone's gaze focus on him. Then he slowly uttered words that made everyone gasp for breath. Chu Ziheng's blood. Not long after, Pazzi, Cesar Gattuso's assistant, pushed the medical freezer in. This was what he drew yesterday on Chu Ziheng, who had no counterattack ability. This matter was hidden from everyone, even the artificial intelligence Norma of the college. He picked up a test tube containing a blood sample to display, which could hardly be called a blood sample. If he hadn't mentioned it in advance, more people would have believed it was a black tube of oil. Chu Ziheng did not deny that the eerie blood sample came from him, nor could he deny it. The surveillance in the school clinic recorded everything, and since this step has been taken, the other party must have some backup. Pazzi's expression was faint, unable to see his joy and anger clearly, as if he was just a simple doctor, beginning to announce the start of the experiment and the predetermined conclusions. A mixed race of dangerous bloodline, with blood characteristics similar to dragon blood. It is irritable, aggressive, and highly toxic, and can react violently with human blood. After he finished speaking, he took out a drop of blood from a test tube containing Chu Ziheng's blood sample and a normal human blood sample, and dropped it onto a quartz glass. Everyone was holding their breath, even Principal Anger and Vice Principal Leonardo couldn't help but sit upright with a tense expression. 2 drops of blood are not compatible, just like oil and water. Pazzi suddenly flashed back. Everyone present gasped for breath, and with his movements, his heart suddenly rose to his throat. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, no have change. Hua. Now it's Andrew and Percy who were shocked. How could it be? Quickly, a clear female voice answered him, it's obvious that these are 2 very normal blood samples. According to Mr. Percy, Chu Zihang's should have been taken during his recovery period. As is well known, if there is an injury to the body, catching a cold is a normal thing. I heard that when people catch a cold, their blood is indeed darker than usual, which is not surprising, is it? And I don't understand. Mr. Andrew specially arranged this performance to prove that there is no blood relationship between that normal blood sample and Chu Zihang. However, the blood test has long been proven to be false. I advise Mr. Andrew to read less ancient Chinese novels instead. The girl spoke at an extremely fast pace, like a barrage of bullets, knocking Andrew back step by step. But he didn't even know where the damn sound came from. He suspected that at this moment, there was also a problem with his ears, and he heard 3-dimensional surround sound coming from all directions. Shoo! The girl chuckled again, full of frivolity and mockery. But even a normal person would think this blood sample is wrong. Andrew struggled to the death. Is the so-called darker point in her mouth serious? Clearly open your eyes and tell the truth. Who else is normal among the people present? We already have dragon blood on our bodies. The woman coaxed gently, like a queen who privately visits and teaches foolish people. Or does Mr. Andrew want everyone to take blood on sight to prove his innocence? After a pause, she sighed and added, then I probably can't do it. I'm the most afraid of pain. Whoever makes me hurt will die. Arrogant words, blatantly threatening. Almost everyone's attention was drawn away, but the direction of the sound was too special, and they could only look around like headless flies. Only a very small number of people have locked onto a certain position. Even without the use of eloquence, Caesar's hearing was different from that of an ordinary person, so he had already looked over there when the girl first spoke, with a somewhat playful expression. He remembers that the person who just raised their hand seemed to be in that direction. Lu Mingfei instinctively looked over and for some reason, he felt that this girl was the same person as the one who had just saved his face. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. 7 Sacred Crimes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 6. Internship Tasks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Internship Tasks Easy and Easy. Afterwards, anger, greed, and jealousy were also pulled out one by one. If the vice principal were still here, he would definitely be shocked. What kind of talent and strength is this? 7 knives were pulled out just like they were playing around. How are you? Are you still satisfied with the young master? The dark figure grinned, like a child who received full marks and invited their parents for credit. It's not surprising, Anger said. If it's really just strange when the lust stops. Actually, you should have let Xiaoheng try it out just now. Black Shadow chuckled lightly and casually flicked his finger. The 7 knives seemed to have come to life and were inserted back into their scabbards. Pulling out these requires absolute strength, but it also requires some small skills. May I hear its details? These knives are based on the 7 deadly sins, corresponding to different dragon kings. Similarly, users also need to possess these powers, such as when lust rejected me just now. He paused, his hands clasped together, and his face turned positive. Mainly because I don't have that worldly desire, he said anger. If I draw my sword with an ordinary heart, then besides lust, jealousy and greed will not respond to me. So Xiaoheng will be rejected by laziness, which does not mean that others will also reject him. Explaining so much to me is mainly for the last sentence, right? Anger smiled and said, why don't you show up directly in front of him because you care so much about him? He should also miss you, right? I'm afraid I'll scare him, the dark figure pouted. And I promised Jianhao not to appear in front of him as much as possible. After a pause, he spoke again, oh by the way, please help me take care of him for this mission. I won't go with him. Why? Anger couldn't understand. With the level of treasure that Chu Zihang had in front of him, he should have wished he could take the task of assassinating the Dragon King with his own sword. After all, it's also my old acquaintance who's going to be killed. The separation of life and death is something that I've never really liked, sighed the figure. Okay, I will ensure his safety. Anger didn't continue to dwell on whether this reason could stand or not. Black Shadow raised his eyebrows and said, don't ask me who the Dragon King is. You won't tell me. Anger's face remained expressionless. Hee, how many days will I see you then? Black Shadow waved his hand and said, I wish you all the best in your actions. It will go smoothly. Henri's eyes suddenly ignited. No matter what Dragon King the other party is, this time he will make them have no return. Like Norton and Constantine. 6 months later. Qianli, this message is to inform you that you have been assigned an internship task by the execution department and are expected to depart for the airport at 7:00 this morning. There will be a car waiting for you in front of your dormitory. You will be taking the CC-1000 Special Express to Chicago. For details of the task, please ask the person in charge of the task. Please do not worry about your attendance and credits. The execution department has already taken leave from various professors on your behalf. Qianli, who was checking the email, couldn't believe what she saw. She rubbed her eyes and asked incredulously, Norma, are you sure you didn't send it to the wrong person? Or is all of this just my illusion? She is just a 0-point girl chasing idols, even copying Chu Zihang's schedule for elective courses. Her daily task is to execute various almost abnormal peer plans. As a result, just as she was preparing to become a salted fish, she received a joking internship task at 4 a.m. It's like a fat house that was originally hiding at home and waiting for death when suddenly someone knocked on its door, slapping off the fat house happiness water and fat house happiness things in his hand and pulling him to run wildly, while telling him, wake up, the end of the world is coming. You have been chosen as the savior of this time, come and save the world with me happily. Norma quickly replied to her, you have to believe that Norma is a highly intelligent supercomputer and won't make such basic mistakes. And even though it's currently 4 a.m., you went to bed very early last night. Based on your sleep situation, you should still be awake now. She was sentenced to death directly. The chubby mansion, with a bewildered expression on its face, saw the chaos outside and finally realized that it was not a late joke from April Fool's Day. After a fierce ideological struggle, it reluctantly accepted its mission. Nonsense, they have already been pulled out of the house. Can we still go back? Qianli swallowed his saliva and nodded with difficulty, I understand, Norma. Please help me organize a list of things I need to bring. Good. According to Norma's instructions, Qianli prepared all the necessary items for daily life and rushed to the gathering place with a box in hand, even holding breakfast bread that had just arrived from the cafeteria. Sorry senior brothers, I'm late, sorry. She apologized repeatedly when she saw the other 3 people waiting in place. You don't have to apologize, we came early, Caesar Gattuso said to ease the siege. Indeed, they came early, and when he heard about the task to be carried out today, he couldn't wait to rush over. The other 2 people were probably in a similar situation to him, but Lu Mingfei's diligence surprised him a bit. He thought that Lu Ming would only reluctantly come over when he was about to depart. Lu Mingfei was surprised when he saw Qianli and said, Hey, are there any junior sisters with us? I thought we were the only 3. This tone is like a criminal on the brink of death discovering a beautiful woman among the crowd of people who came to inspect the execution, looking at him with seductive eyes and suddenly feeling that this life has been fulfilled. Qianli hurriedly said, Hello senior brothers, I am a first-year student. Qianli, B.Level Yenling, Student ID AI052153B. Pohaha, Lu Mingfei laughed and said, Junior sister, don't be so nervous. We are not good people. His initiative to talk is not only due to the attraction of the opposite sex, but also mainly because the other two members of the team. One is his immediate boss. Unfortunately, he misses his sister. Law, the other is his senior brother. Unfortunately, he is a germ killer. When he sadly felt that he was the only normal person in the entire team, another seemingly normal and pleasing person appeared in front of him, naturally willing to spend more time with this same kind. Besides, Qianli looks a bit too good. Upon hearing these words, Qianli smiled and said, then I should be even more nervous. After all, I'm not a good person either. Lu Mingfei was dazzled by this smile. The person in front of me is very attractive and aggressive, but different from Nono. If Nono is a sharp knife that has been sharpened, then Qianli is a long sword shining with cold light. When not laughing, there is an almost cold and harsh indifference. When laughing, it feels like 100 flowers are blooming, especially a blush at the corner of the eye, which almost flies and burns into the heart. He looked inexplicably at Chu Zihang, touched the opponent's flawless face, and then regained his senses. Sure enough, he didn't sleep well last night, otherwise how could he feel that the junior sister is a bit similar to the senior brother Shang? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Departure. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Departure. Slebnir let out a long hiss, responding to the call of his deity and rushing towards the sky. We still don't know who the eternal spear will fall on. The black plane emitted a deafening roar, like the roar of ancient gods. The Gulfstream G550 they boarded for this operation is the private plane of Principal Anger, and they usually have precious items, which are only used when attending important meetings or auction houses. After being renovated by the equipment department of the college, its design is extremely cool and the noise is extremely loud. It was named Slebnir by them, which is said to be Odin's mount, the eight-legged heavenly horse. Qianli heard Lu Mingfei's exclamation, as if it was also his first time seeing this big guy. The lifting platform slowly descended, and Caesar took the lead in pulling his suitcase in. As the captain of this operation, he will also be responsible for a series of arrangements after entering. Qianli glanced at his two direct senior brothers and decided to make a good little vegetable chicken, walking honestly at the end. However, Lu Mingfei felt it was necessary to show his gentlemanly demeanor at this moment and said, Junior sister, I'll help you. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw Chu Zihang, who had been cold-faced, take Qianli's suitcase and walk in without saying a word. Qianli was flattered and quickly followed, Senior brother Chu, don't bother, I can handle it myself. She only installed a computer and a few clothes to change, as well as some essential items that came from the equipment department. Relying on her Japanese language skills, she barely passed the exam. She felt that the remaining items could be purchased after going to the Japanese branch, so the suitcase was not too heavy. Chu Zihang remained silent and rejected her proposal with action. Lu Mingfei, who was walking behind, blinked, feeling as if he had discovered something extraordinary. The Gulfstream G550 tears through the clouds and emits a palpitating sound of breaking winds. Above was a tumultuous sea of clouds like a wave and a shining Milky Way star, while below was a dazzling layer of mist and countless household lights, giving them the illusion of gliding between the two worlds. This Gulfstream aircraft inherits the consistent characteristics of the equipment department, with powerful functions and almost zero comfort. After trying several times and realizing that he couldn't rest at all, Lu Mingfei gave up his resistance and opened his eyes and whispered to Qianli. Junior sister, I heard that you also took the initiative to find it like senior brother Chu. This incident caused a small stir among the new generation, but considering that the main student has hardly appeared since enrollment and is still the most common B.level bloodline, it gradually subsided. He also suddenly realized that the name, Qianli, was somewhat familiar, and it was then that he remembered such a thing. Qianli nodded and said, yes. More precisely, it was because of Chu Zihang that she took the initiative to find Kassel. The unbearable blood sorrow of mixed race is dispensable for her, and the useless B.level words make her life no different from ordinary people. If it weren't for Chu Zihang, she could have been admitted to a normal university with her excellent grades, including dating, getting married, having children, getting old. Or omitting all the intermediate processes, from living to death. Amazing, Lu Ming sighed and sighed. How did you discover that you have the ability to speak? Qianli couldn't figure out why Lu Mingfei, as a panda-like S.class spirit holder, said powerful, so he ignored it and jumped to the second topic. Once when the teacher threw chalk at me during class, I instinctively blocked it and realized I had this thing. Lu Mingfei seemed completely unaware of this situation, his face full of shock. Qianli gave his answer, which sounded almost like wiping hands with the gang leader who had just shot the enemy and saying to his subordinates, I want to have an extra cake for dinner. Can't even possessing words and spirits that are similar to superpowers arouse the excitement of the little girl now? What is the real reaction to this plain and indifferent painting? Qianli smiled awkwardly. She can't be honest. It feels like the truth she said on this plane is like showing off to the world's richest person that she just earned 100 yuan. A Lionheart Association president, a student union president, an exceptionally rare S.level. Shameful, she will immediately withdraw from the battlefield. I heard that you also seem to be from Shirlan Middle School. As the founder of the first gossip system in the college, Finger's roommate knew long before Qianli entered the school that he had a young junior sister like this coming over, but at that time he only glanced briefly at the photo. The photo provided by Finger was so absurd that he couldn't see his face clearly, so he didn't pay much attention. Now that he had looked at my master, he realized how outrageous this was. That's Finger, who claims to be trying to catch all the beautiful girls. How could he have made such a big mistake in this matter? It's even more unbelievable than senior brother Chu, who never leaves his sword behind, losing his own sword. I should be the direct junior sister of my senior brothers, one level lower than you, just like my roommate, Qianli chuckled. Your roommate? Lu Mingfei was curious. Yes, she is also from our Shirlan Middle School, said Qianli. One level lower than them, and also from Shirlan Middle School. Lu Mingfei suddenly had an ominous premonition, and he spoke up to stop it, but it was clearly too late. I remember Xiaomi is very familiar with her senior brothers, Qianli said. Lu Mingfei covered his face. He hardly dared to see the reactions of the people around him. The seat moved slightly, and as soon as Chu Zihang heard the name, his body reacted step by step with his brain. He sat up with his eyes closed and focused, looking straight ahead. It seems like I haven't thought about anything, and it's like I'm lost in thought. Lu Mingfei really wanted to say a few bad words to break the eerie tranquility at this moment, but damn it, his passive skill, which was more and more nervous and said bad words, actually failed at this moment. So he could only dryly try to shift the topic. Ha ha ha, I see. Junior sister, you are so beautiful, but I don't know why I don't have much impression. Qianli tilted her head, as if she didn't feel the embarrassment and helplessness of his words about to overflow the screen. She smiled Qianxi and said, because I have a public face. This is a great topic, and Lu Mingfei followed her words with ease. How could it be? Junior sister, do you have any misunderstandings about the public face? Senior brother Lu, did you just see me? Did you remember me deeply? Qianli leaned closer, as if to make him see more clearly. The close-range beauty strike made Lu Mingfei's hands tremble a bit. He smiled and said, of course, even if my junior sister looks so beautiful, she will turn into dust. Ah no, I can definitely remember that time has passed. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Remember you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Remember you. Okay, from now on, close your eyes and think about what I look like in your mind, said Qianli. Lu Mingfei didn't know what the girl was going to do, but obediently closed his eyes and began to recall her appearance as she said. Then he froze. I can't remember it at all. His facial features were completely blurry. He clearly remembered a very special tattoo-like mark on his junior sister's face, but now he can't even recall where that mark should be. What's going on? I can't remember anymore, so I said I have a common face. Qianli smiled. Lu Mingfei opened his eyes and rubbed his head. Oh, senior brother Lu, you're so cute, just like before. Qianli smiled enough and barely straightened his expression. Cute. Lu Mingfei couldn't help but withdraw to the side upon hearing the words, indicating how much he respected the word. I remember, you used to jump on the grid at Tiantai Mountain in your home, cute like a little kangaroo. Qianli's eyebrows and eyes curved. Lu Mingfei was taken aback. To be honest, his current feeling is a bit strange. He is always narcissistic and wants many people to remember him. Those who are far away in China will remember him because of his usual cowardice or if he had a bad life. Those who are in the academy will remember him because he is an untrue S.level student, and uncles and aunts will remember him because of the huge annual support payments his parents give, but now someone told him that they only remembered him simply because they saw him jumping on the grid at Tiantai Mountain. Just like, the other party doesn't care about all the external conditions he can have. She can remember Lu Mingfei just because he is Lu Mingfei. I send you a happy birthday every year, but unfortunately you never reply to me. Qianli seemed to think of something and pursed his lips. Happy birthday. Lu Mingfei became even more confused. Yeah, I don't know your phone number, but I found my senior brother's QQ from the Literary Society and sent you a QQ email. Qianli was a bit discouraged and said, I thought my senior brother would naturally get to know me after seeing it. Lu Mingfei recalled that he had indeed received inexplicable birthday wishes a few times, but at that time he thought he had sent them to the wrong person. You're not even signed, he raised his voice. Ah yes, that's the way to bring up the topic. In my imagination, my senior brother would reply to me with, did you send the wrong message or, do you know who I am? Even if it didn't work out, it would still be received, thank you. But you, 1 or 2 words, none, no, reply, me. At this moment, Qianli became more resolute and resolute. Lu Mingfei said that what she said was just a normal person's reaction, which shows that he is a weakling. Even if his birthday is announced to the world, not many people may be willing to remember it, even uncles and aunts don't remember it. His first reaction could only be that the person sent the wrong message, and then silently said thank you and crossed the chat box. He deceived himself and thought that the other person was indeed speaking well with him. Of course, I'm afraid that if I don't return, I will expose the lie that is as rotten as a foam. You. So why didn't you sign your name? Lu Mingfei scratched his head and almost crumpled his hair into a chicken coop. Will a signature be considered a pervert? Qianli finished speaking, seemingly to affirm himself, and explained again. Being named by someone he doesn't know and sending an email wishing him a happy birthday, will definitely be considered a pervert stalker or something like that. Even worse, he is also a voyeur. Lu Mingfei was completely disorganized and said, Junior sister, you have such a big misunderstanding of your appearance. A beautiful girl like you, even if she is really abnormal, I still recognize her. Qianli. Then you are indeed very abnormal. Lu Mingfei. The other 2 people who seem to be chatting but have been following here all along. The plane has been sailing for almost 4 hours, and this Slytherin is carrying several seemingly unreliable passengers at an astonishing speed to its destination. Lu Mingfei looked at the scene below through the plane window and excitedly expressed that he wanted to go to Akihabara after getting off the plane, even though they had just arrived at the Japanese border. Otaku all over the world probably have the same dream, which is to go to the Holy Land of Akihabara. Now that he is about to realize this dream, his face is filled with joy. Qianli paused for a moment, recalled for a moment, and said, Akihabara is not far from our destination. If senior brother Lu wants to go, we can go together. Junior sister, do you know? Lu Mingfei was surprised. All of his knowledge about Akihabara comes from anime and the Japanese travel handbook that the little devil gave him before his departure. However, hearing Qianli's tone clearly indicates that he has done his homework before. Well, I used to live in Tokyo for a while, Qianli nodded. So if time permits, senior brother, I'll take you all over Akihabara. You are my savior, junior sister. Lu Mingfei said excitedly. Is there anything more enjoyable than having people with the same interests and hobbies as you when traveling together? They had a great conversation, but the other two were not so evenly matched. The atmosphere that was carefully maintained along the way collapsed with a loud bang as we were about to reach our destination. The person who had just calmed down their excitement had no idea why these two seemingly normal people were able to talk about their childhood experiences from where they wanted to go after getting off the plane, and even almost got into a fight. However, realizing that the situation was not good, the two quickly came out to make amends. At least, they managed to barely quell a catastrophe. Imagine two mortal weapons fighting on this plane, and although the interior of the fuselage had undergone modifications by the equipment department, Qianli still felt that his life's safety was under unprecedented threat. Oh yes, there is another possibility that they will be uniformly packed, parachuted and thrown out by the captain before the fight starts, to avoid the situation from getting out of control and accidentally injuring his beloved plane. The atmosphere remained deadlocked. What else did Qianli want to say? Seeing that Lu Mingfei was already asleep next to her, she pursed her lips and didn't speak again. Based on her judgment, the plane is about to land and the other party cannot sleep for long. As expected, the plane began to land shortly after. Just as he was about to successfully land, he suddenly felt a violent jolt in the cabin. This is a runway that has long been abolished, leaving only 50 meters for this aircraft that has just finished supersonic flight, and in front of them, there is also a Hummer blocking the exit. Fortunately, Qianli was well prepared and timely stabilized his body, which saved him from calamity. Lu Mingfei was not so lucky. He rushed straight ahead and was about to crash into the nearby airplane window. Qianli quickly activated his voice and erected a small barrier in front of him, barely helping him avoid a disaster. Lu Mingfei rubbed his forehead and excitedly grasped Qianli's hand, saying, "Thank you for saving your life. If you ever use my place in the future, I will be willing to do anything." Qianli chuckled and said, "Then I have written it down. If there is any danger during this mission, I will be the first to push my senior brother out to cushion my back." Lu Mingfei suddenly frowned and said, "Junior sister, you are so ruthless. Isn't this necessary? It's non-toxic and not husband. Return my junior sister who was just gentle enough to take me to visit Akihabara." Lu Mingfei wailed. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Jianhao Tourism Group. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Jianhao Tourism Group. The Japanese commissioner in charge of this pick-up and drop-off, Yuan Jisheng, looked at the cabin door that was about to open with a cold gaze. Just now, he made a small bet with the captain of Slytherin with his own life, and the Gulfstream stopped a few meters ahead of the Hummer, almost colliding with him. The only outcome waiting for him is a broken bones. But he didn't care, he just watched calmly as the Gulfstream charged towards him like an angry bull. Then, Yuan Jisheng, who was extremely calm, saw a scene that startled his chin. The cabin door slowly opened, and 4 paper umbrellas caught the eye first. Following closely behind were 4 printed kimonos of the same texture, with the only difference being the print patterns on top and the distinction between male and female styles, with white socks and wooden clogs at the feet. One paper umbrella depicts white cranes and chrysanthemums, one depicts the erupting Mount Fuji, and the other depicts the blooming tea leaves. The front one has nothing painted, only the majestic 4 characters, "Let the world shine," written on it. Damn it, is this really Narita Airport? Why can't I see anything with a hint of darkness in my eyes, said Bai Jiuhua. It seems that this place is right, but it has been abandoned for a long time, so there are not many lighting facilities nearby, said the blooming tea tree. Abandoned. Shouldn't it land in the VIP aisle? It's so cold. The whole world was very dissatisfied. Do we really need to dress like this, said Bai Jiuhua. It's said to be a farewell gift from the principal, wishing us a smooth journey, but I always feel a bit strange, said Tianxia. Maybe it's because Caesar and Brother Chu are men's styles, while Brother Lu and I are women's styles, said the blooming Tu Yen with her right hand clenching her fist, pressing against the corner of her mouth, concealing a hint of schadenfreude. What? White Crane and Chrysanthemum were shocked. Damn it, I'm actually wearing a women's outfit. Not only that, but if I tell my senior brother that the body you're wearing was actually meant for me to change, would you be even more desperate? The blooming enthusiasm almost couldn't help but burst into laughter. Judging from the size, that outfit was indeed meant for her to change clothes, but it was probably because the person responsible for arranging the clothes didn't know much about kimono, so they placed the more masculine-looking one in the position of Lu Mingfei. She was not short at all, and her height of 174 made her almost a standout among girls, so Lu Mingfei didn't feel anything unusual when wearing it except for the feeling of wind under her hips. Alright now, my image has collapsed before it even started to shape. White Crane and Chrysanthemum went crazy and couldn't help but ask again, Junior sister, why didn't you remind me just now? I just had a chance to say that, said the blooming enthusiasm, blinking and not concealing her prank. Never mind, it's useless to say anything now. Baihe and Jiuhua hung their heads and said, let's wait until we settle down and then replace it. The blooming tea patted his shoulder as if comforting. Speaking of which, why hasn't someone been sent to pick us up for so long? I thought there might be another welcome party. Baihe Jiuhua's voice sounded somewhat gritted as he tried to divert his attention. Wait a moment, Japan is a nation that values face. Perhaps there will be beautiful girls picking us up with flowers, said Tianxia. Yuan Jisheng's eyes twitched. Before departure, he had already heard Mr. Zhengzong say that the so-called ace team sent by the headquarters this time was to be treated as politely as possible, and he was even prepared to play the role of an all-around father. But what is the situation now? What exactly is this team? Jianhao visiting group. Or rather, a sightseeing tour group. At this moment, compared to the rest of the team, Mount Fuji, who was quiet and erupted, lifted his head, turned his face, and glanced at each other, rubbing his eyes. That was a pair of brilliant golden pupils, and the surging dragon energy almost forced Yuan Jisheng to tilt back. What is this, Xiaomawei? Yuan Jisheng licks the roots of his teeth. The blooming tea leaves walked forward, speaking fluent Japanese, and said to the Sakura standing beside them, may I ask if you are the specialist sent by the branch to pick us up? Hello, I am the special envoy for this trip, Qianli. Nice to meet you. Damn it. You're really here for tourism. Seemingly to express friendship and respect, the blooming tea leaves tilted the umbrella to one side, revealing the extremely gorgeous face beneath it. Yuan Jisheng was taken aback. Coincidentally, Qianli also looked over here and smiled brightly. Do I know you? Yuan Jisheng opened his mouth, but after all, he couldn't say this sentence. And the other party withdrew their gaze as if nothing had happened, without any ripples, as if everything had just been his illusion. He saw the blooming mandala take out a delicate bracelet from his backpack and give it to Yakusakura, and he himself also received a cigar from all over the world. All of this was beyond his control. White Crane and Chrysanthemum waved the hotel postcard at him, clearly treating him as the tour guide, introducing themselves in Japanese, which was clearly learned from the anime. The erupting Mount Fuji began a closed-eye meditation mode with a long sword in its arms, while the blooming tea leaves were still chatting with Yakusakura about topics between girls. Demons dance wildly. Just now, the pilot from Gulfstream pointed at him and scolded him as crazy, but he didn't think anything of it. After all, he thought it was absolutely abnormal compared to some people, but now he thinks these people are crazy. Yuan Jisheng took a deep breath, accentuated his tone, and introduced himself fluently in Chinese. At Xia Yuanji, I graduated from the XXXX level advanced training program at Kassel College. Welcome to Japan. As soon as he finished speaking, I heard Bai He and Zhu Hua praise him for his good Chinese with their awkward Japanese accent. Puff. The blooming teapot noticed the situation here and couldn't help but laugh out, "Senior brother, please be normal. I'm afraid." Yuan Jisheng's mouth twitched as he turned his gaze to the group leader of this trip, who seemed abnormal at first glance. Caesar Gattuso. Although he thought the most normal one should be the fluent Japanese blooming tea, he couldn't be sure if the other party was specifically sent by the unreliable headquarters as a peer translator. "Yes, let's drive," Caesar said. With the arrogance of a top-notch nobleman, he was completely mistaken for the driver of this car. Yuan Jisheng felt that he was on the brink of an explosion at this moment, and tried his best to control the impulse to throw the document in his face. He handed it to the other party and said, "Please have the team leader sign." Caesar frowned and looked at Qianli, the only one in the group who was proficient in Japanese. Qianli leaned over and glanced, his mouth twitching as he said, "This is our body plan. It says that if we unfortunately die during the mission, they can send our bodies back to our hometown for free." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Underwater Crosstalk. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Underwater Crosstalk. She couldn't help but marvel at the same documents as when she enrolled. Kassel, regardless of the branch or headquarters, provided excellent welfare for students. "Oh," Caesar signed calmly. "Senior brother, do you want me to help you sign?" Qianli turned to ask Lu Mingfei and Chu Ziheng. "Sure, anyway, we're all in the same place, which happened to help them save on shipping costs," said Lu Mingfei. Qianli covered his face and said, "Senior brother, don't say that we are like cheap processed cabbage in the noon market. Although it seems like this is the truth." Yuan Jisheng was dumbfounded. He knew that most of the troops sent by the headquarters were useless, but it was really the first time he had seen such a blatant display. Finally, the front seat was resolved and the group got on the car one by one. Unexpectedly, before the Hummer could start, sirens and warnings suddenly sounded around. Hundreds of guns were pointed at the Hummer at the same time, and there is no doubt that as long as the other party gives a command, they may be shot into a hornet's nest together with the Hummer. Lu Mingfei, who was originally drowsy, leaned out in fear upon hearing this and said, "What's going on?" Chu Ziheng also slowly opened his pair of golden pupils that never went out, as strict as a dragon from ancient times. Yuan Jisheng had no choice but to regretfully tell them that due to the confidentiality of this mission, they were actually considered true smugglers. Qianli's eyelids twitched, feeling a sense of crisis with no hope for the future. "But those people are not here to catch us, are they? For a few illegal immigrants, not to." Yuan Jisheng nodded and said, "Yes, to be precise, they have set their sights on us." The situation is somewhat complicated, so Yuan Jisheng tried to explain it in the simplest tone possible. After understanding the ins and outs of the situation, the few people in the back seat began to actively discuss solutions, such as reporting accomplices and avoiding light punishment. Of course, this was only a proposal by Lu Mingfei. "Wow, aren't you able to make such a cowardly proposal out loud?" Qianli reached out and waved his hand in front of Lu Mingfei. "Mom is very disappointed with you." Lu Mingfei. Is the last sentence serious? And, junior sister, we can't even be considered familiar. Lu Mingfei shouted angrily. "Why not forget it? I am your own biological family member with no blood relationship." Your eerie silence meant to say, "Parents, right? Is that right? There are many flaws, I don't know where to start, he said. From your expression, it seems that you have already vomited a lot in your heart. Qianli retorted, then turned to Yuan Jisheng sitting in the driver's seat and said, what do you think of our getting off the car and hiking? My words and spirits can be invisible, and it's definitely not a problem to protect us and leave safely. Before Yuan Jisheng could speak, Lu Mingfei was the first to question the feasibility of this plan. What about the car? It's far from the destination, isn't it? I can carry the car on my back, Qianli said solemnly. Everyone. They can see that the calmness and reliability they just showed are fake, and this guy is also responsible for making fun of it. As the most direct victim of this trip, Caesar rubbed his brows with a headache and questioned his soul. The only S-level mascot in the four-person team, a formidable enemy with decent combat power, and an unknown sexual transformation that appeared to be a mascot, can this mission really be successfully completed? If he remembers correctly, the mission will require going into the sea, and then in the deep sea area, he will have to listen to these two cargo talking about underwater cross-talk. Thinking about it is despairing. After taking several deep breaths in a row, Yuan Jisheng finally calmed down the urge to throw these people out of the car and started the car. The Hummer charged forward like an arrow, and the sound of gunfire followed one after another, hitting the car with a metallic impact. The police car followed closely behind, biting the Hummer tightly. Qianli pursed her lips and asked softly, this is actually because the Japanese branch learned that we are coming and specially arranged a thrilling underworld movie shoot for us, right? Do you think this car would feel more realistic and exciting when it's not bulletproof? Yuan Jisheng's face remained expressionless. Qianli also remained expressionless and said, so high. The conversation between the two was so cold that even though there was a lively scene of police and bandits chasing outside, the few people inside the car remained silent for a long time. Do you want to go up? After only a few crisp sounds of metal friction, Qianli followed Chu Zihang's movements and assembled the shotgun. Where did you get the gun, junior sister? Lu Mingfei was very frightened. Just now, a person who was just as scared as him suddenly pulled out a huge gun and completed the transformation from a powerless passerby armor to a fire cloud evil god about to kill all directions in just 1 second. Who will tell him what exactly happened? Oh, it's like this. Before Norma arrived, she instructed me to go to the equipment department. I came from those humanoid self-propelled bombs, Qianli replied, opening her phone and playing a cheerful song. She plugged in her headphones. Lu Mingfei no longer knows where to start spitting at the slot. Why does he feel like he's the only normal person on the whole car? He thought his junior sister was that cute creature, but now the enemy can still make a calm expression of what to drink in the afternoon. Is it really good? Even Caesar beside him couldn't help but glance at Qianli. It seems that there was a deviation in my previous positioning of this student, and this one has nothing to do with Little White Rabbit. It's not an exaggeration to say it's a fierce mink. Visually weak, with astonishing combat effectiveness. It's far from that point. Give me 60 seconds, I'll shake them off. Yuan Jisheng observed the movement in the back seat through the rearview mirror and finally regained his composure. This is the Japanese branch, our territory. Since we said we want to protect you, there won't be any mistakes. What a big tone. Caesar raised his eyebrows, full of interest. Compared to the group of crazy Japanese police stations chasing them indiscriminately behind him, it seems that what Yuan Jisheng said just now caught his attention more. Yuan Jisheng is non-committal. According to Hui Yeji's intelligence, this highway has been blocked and there are also police cars rushing towards it, said Yazuki Sakura, sitting in the passenger seat, glancing at her phone. Hui Yeji? Qianli asked. This is an intelligent brain independently developed by a Watsu Research Institute, which, like its headquarters Norma, has independent computing power and operates separately from Norma. Considering that they had a good relationship at the beginning, even though Sakura Yakuwa was a bit reserved, she still answered Qianli's question seriously. So this is outside Norma's surveillance range. Caesar was surprised. No, the two are directly connected. So Norma can also monitor Japan's territory, it's just that Haya Himeji belongs exclusively to the Japan branch. As the few people were talking, the police car had already gathered around and kept hitting the Hummer with its body. This is issuing a final ultimatum. If they don't make any more surrendering moves, the other party's next move is to squeeze them off the highway. The outcome that awaits them will only be for the light to overturn and the heavy to explode. Are you sure you don't need to use a gun? Qianli licked his teeth, his peach blossom eyes slightly narrowed, emitting a shimmering and dangerous light. End of this chapter.